Welcome back, everybody. It is the Awesemo.com Nhl Dfs strategy show coming to you on a Saturday. We've got 11 games to talk about. We'll quick mention last night's game because it was just one, and talk through these 11. Another huge slate. Cliffy's joining me. How's it going, Cliffy?
Going good, man. Actually kind of looking forward to this slate. Like, I hate 13 or 14 gamers, but 11 feels a lot more manageable. So I'm kind of excited to actually break these games down rather than just like speed run through them as fast as we can.
Yeah, so we'll get to dive into a couple of them at least a little bit deeper than the sprint that we had. And I don't think we've got an NBA show after this. So if we go right up to, 5 Eastern, then we should be good. So we got the full hour. Josh says got sixth in the 10K showdown last night. Congrats. That's awesome. That's probably, I think the payout wasn't actually too bad. So probably got a decent cash there. A few $100 at least on $10. No problems with that. Did you, you just played the one lineup. How did it do, Cliffy?
Yeah, not very well. I went in on the Blackhawks thinking it'd be a little bit contrarian, but Blackhawks really didn't pull out. One thing I did notice in that game, though, and I mentioned in our Slack, that line of Strome, Kubalik, and Khrushchev has looked pretty good for them. I know it's been a tough season for the Blackhawks in general, especially losing Doc and Taves right off the hop. But if anything, the fact that they can put together a line with those two out of the lineup and without Patrick Kane, and it looks good, that's at least something for the Blackhawks, and it's something for us to remember. Yeah. Moving forward, that you don't have to play Patrick Kane on every Blackhawks slate to play the Blackhawks.
Yeah, and especially like these lines that pop up that might have good numbers right away. I always try to jump on them, even if it might be fraudulent. Like if they do turn out to be good shot generation lines or expected goals are looking good for them, I'll just jump on them and try to be overweight for a few slates in a row and just see what happens there. So, yeah, good to point out there. Always a couple things to take away, regardless of slate size. We are almost at 50,000 subscribers, not 50,000 followers. That'll be a day on Twitter. I think we're about halfway there on Twitter, maybe a little bit more. But on YouTube, we got almost 50,000 subscribers. Help us get there. Hit the notification bell. You'll know when we go live. You won't have to tweet me during the show asking when the show is. Like I get a message sometime or DM'd. You'll know when all the shows go live. So NBA, PGA, we've got UFC next week, I believe. Not today. NFL, we'll have a ton of Super Bowl content, betting, Awesemo odds. If you guys haven't checked out Odd Shopper, go over there. Get there on the main site. Just go to the top toolbar and you'll see Odd Shopper. If you're in a legal state, really cool tool to help you shop the odds. Why wouldn't you want to play the best odds that you can get on a bet, whether you're betting props or money lines, totals, whatever it is, will help you shop. And it's completely free. So head over there if you haven't. We don't talk a ton of betting on here, but we're probably going to end up talking a little bit more betting as some of these states start to loosen the restrictions for gambling because everyone's already doing it anyways. So, yes, I've got a Leaf shirt on today. I actually had a shirt on that I wore like a couple days ago. I don't know. Do you do that, Cliffy? Do you rewear shirts from like the day before? If you don't, like, I didn't work out in it or anything. I just wore it after I showered and then like just throw it back on the next day. I don't know. Is that weird?
Yeah. I mean, come on, man. Like this is month 11 of a pandemic. Like yeah. I'm not really going to break anybody's balls for wearing a shirt like 2 days in a row or whatever. Like I haven't worn jeans since like Christmas of 2019. I'm really not going to get on anybody's case here for wearing the same shirt 2 days in a row.
So yeah, I was going to just throw the same shirt on, but I didn't know. Maybe someone would notice. People like to comment on my shirts. I've got all these different jerseys that I wear. And yeah, I mean, I never
I'm wearing my Habs jersey, so we kind of match today.
All right, there we go. Canadian division teams. That's what you're going to get on today's NHL DFS strategy show, plus a couple American teams as well. So let's get into it. We've got the Penguins and the Rangers to start out with. 3 implied total for both sides. Casey DeSmith and Georgiev are confirmed for both teams. New-ish Rangers lines. I can't keep track of what these guys are doing. They're like the new Blue Jackets from a couple of years ago where you don't really know what they're going to do game to game. So at least they're going to start with Zibanejad, Lafreniere, and Buchnevich, Strome, Panarin, and Colin Blackwell. He's played there some. We've got him projected as a pretty good value. Do you like anything on the Rangers side here? Are you confident that they're going to stick with these lines? I can't remember what they did last game, but I've been kind of avoiding them because, especially on these bigger slates, because just not confident that they're going to stick with their lines, and that's going to mess up when you need to hit the nuts on a 14 gamer, on an 11 gamer. Gets really difficult if you don't know if your guys are going to play together. So where are you at on the Rangers?
Yeah, I know what you mean by their lines sticking together, and it is a pretty big issue for DFS because we do want our lines to stick together. But one thing, like, they do tend to kind of play their pairs. Like Strome and Panarin are pretty much locked in together. I know they put Buchnevich on that line at times this year, but I would assume that Zibanejad and Buchnevich are kind of locked in together. It's really kind of the ancillary pieces that they're moving around. Like, it's like Kako and Lafreniere and Kreider and those guys. Like, it's not the main guys that we really have to worry about. They're still getting their ice time. I find myself getting to some power play stacks here, and it's mostly because of the price, right? Like, Zibanejad started the season over 8K. He's down under 7,000. Panarin's down under 7,000. Like, Fox is getting expensive, but Tony DeAngelo has joined the top power play unit again with Fox, and DeAngelo's super cheap. So, like, you can do like a Zibanejad, Panarin, DeAngelo, like 3-man stack. You get heavy exposure to the top power play. You get the two best offensive players on the team on their two respective lines. There's a chance that they're just going to end up skating together at 5-on-5 anyway. And if they don't, you know that they're going to drive the goals for their team. So I do find myself actually getting to a fair amount of the Rangers power play stack. And it's mostly because of how far the price has come down. And it's also like, I don't think the Penguins are necessarily a great defensive team, especially with the injuries that they're having. And also the Zibanejad line hasn't been necessarily going out against top competition. It's been more Strome Panarin that has been taking top competition. So, like, if I'm going to get Zibanejad going out against a Malkin line that hasn't looked really good this year, or going out against Pittsburgh's third line in their depth defense, like, I'm going to take that. So, yeah, put me on Zibanejad, like power play stack, Zibanejad, Panarin with DeAngelo. Some of them I have Fox. I am mixing in some Buchnevich as well, just for a little bit of added correlation. But I'm mostly focusing on Zibanejad, Panarin, and DeAngelo. On the Pittsburgh side, I mentioned in Slack last night, Pittsburgh won their top line. Crosby and Gensel has actually played pretty well this year. They're just not getting the breaks, right? Like, Crosby, Gensel, and Rodriguez were shooting like 2.5% as a line. And with anybody but Rodriguez, they're shooting 4.5% as a line. So, like, that's going to probably double between here and the end of the season. So I know that the price is a bit expensive, but it's perfect correlation on the top line with the power play. It's a good matchup going into the Rangers. I will say that the Rangers are better defensively than I think than they were last year for sure, and especially with Jack Johnson now out of the lineup. I believe he's sitting tonight. So with Jack Johnson out of the lineup, they have the worst defenseman in hockey in the press box finally. So I have a little bit more faith in the Rangers defense, but I still think with a perfect correlation, and you don't want to wait until they start bouncing back to start rostering the Penguins. You want to start rostering them now when everybody doesn't want to play them. So I'm not going to play a lot. I'm probably going to have the Penguins on 2 out of 20 lineups, but yeah, Pittsburgh top line, Rangers power play. I do like some Pierre-Olivier Joseph as well, 3,200 for the Penguins. He's playing on the top pair of Chris Letang. Really high on him. He's a good prospect for the Penguins. So if you need to punt a little bit on the blue line, Joseph's your guy for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I really like what you said about Pittsburgh. I want to be on them early, and like, it looks like they're getting some ownership in our first run of, or actually I think it's our second round of ownership projections today, but I don't think enough for me to get off of this top line specifically. Malkin's going to grade out as an okay value. He's a guy that was popping up for me some. I don't know what's going on with him or that second line. Like you mentioned, they're looking pretty poor to start off the season. It's been some tough matchups for Pittsburgh. They played a couple games against Boston. Like, you wouldn't expect them to smash. But here, I think this is the first time for the season that I'm going heavy on Pitt 1. And then I like the power play stack idea. Maybe not the full power play stack, but like just the three forwards maybe and one of the defensemen. Don't love taking both my defensemen from the same team. So getting to some Tony D as well for 3,100. He's one of our better value defensemen tonight on the projections. And then, as is the case with Tang for the most part, unless his price comes way down, usually just playing him with Pit 1 or PP stacks. So my heaviest exposure, I think, is going to be on Pit 1 here. And I'm getting to about double or even triple the field on some of these guys. So I'm pretty excited about that. Anything else we need to mention before we move it on?
No, that's probably it for me. I'm probably gonna stay away from the goaltending. Georgiev is a little bit more expensive. Pittsburgh goaltending is just trash, so no goalies for me from here.
Clayton, another super chat, another $5 super chat. He says, is Malkin dusty, or is there some kind of indicator that he's not? What do you think about that?
It's tough to say because the one thing that stood out for me with Malkin is his shot rate, right? Like his shot rate has completely cratered. It's down below 2 per game. I don't think he's been under 2.5 ever in his career. And I think only a couple seasons he's been below 3. So that, we're only, 7 or 8 games in, but 7 or 8 games shooting at like 1.7 shots per game, even though he's still playing 19 to 20 minutes, like that's a big, big concern for me. So the fact that he's not shooting is what's really keeping me off of him. It's if he had something like 31 shots with 2 goals in 8 games, then I'd say, yeah, okay, he's coming. But where he's sitting with 15 shots in 8 games, I'd be like, this guy just looks like bad. So this is a case where until I see him turn it around, I'm not going to roster him. Like, I'm not going to wait this one out because I don't see a lot of underlying reason to take a stab on him right now.
Yeah, and I thought maybe he would be even a little bit more popular in our ownership projections. He's still under 10%. I thought maybe he might be like one of the more popular players in the slate just because it looks like a good spot and his price plummeted, and just every projection system is probably going to have him as a decent value for 5,700 if they're using any sort of historical numbers, which they all do.
Yeah, so. This is how bad his shot rate right now. He's putting up under 7 shot attempts per 60 minutes, and he's never had a season below 12. Like this, he just doesn't even look like the same player. He looks like Alex Wenberg. It's embarrassing.
All right, hat trick for Malkin tonight. There we go. We'll get to Wenberg in just a minute because
well, yeah, maybe I should shut my mouth.
By the way, there are 8. I want to say it's either 7 or 8 games of the 11 that start at 7 Eastern exactly. So it is going to be a very hectic time in Slack, copying, pasting lines that we get from Twitter from 6:30 Eastern to 7. So you're going to want to be in there if you guys are not already in there. If you want to try out the free premium content for today, Nightbot's hooking you up in the YouTube chat. NHL top stacks. So we can refer to some actual numbers. A lot of people's favorite tool, the top stacks tool for every sport. So it's really valuable in NHL because you can see who's over-owned and under-owned. So check that out if you have not yet subscribed. Islanders, Flyers, 2.7 implied total for the Isles, 2.8 for the Flyers. Varlamov and Hart are your goalies. Kiefer Bellows, I believe, is going to be with Brock Nelson and Josh Bailey. It sounds like Beauvillier is going to be out for a little while longer. And then this isn't confirmed just yet, but there was some talk that maybe Travis Konechny was going to be scratched for the Flyers. You've still got him on the top line because who knows, but he was skating with the extras this morning. I don't know. I don't love this game anyways, and I'm looking like it's a big enough slate where I'm looking for reasons to get off of some teams or some lines especially. And that looks like a pretty murky situation. Anything jump off the page for you here?
I'm staying off the Flyers altogether. I don't have any real interest here. Like even with Konechny in the lineup, it'd be kind of iffy with their best goal scorer out of the lineup and one of the best two-way centers, Sean Couturier, is still not back. Like those are the 2 best forwards, and it's not even close. So, like count me out on the Flyers here, especially in this matchup. I think Philippe Myers is going to be back for Philly tonight. That's going to help them a little bit on the blue line. I mean, as far as the Islanders are concerned, like I think I have like 1 or 2 of the top line because they're perfectly correlated, reasonable price. But what I'm actually getting down to is a mini stack on the 3rd line, and that's Pajot with Wahlstrom. Now, Oliver Wahlstrom's probably not a name familiar to people unless you're like big on prospects and stuff like that. Wahlstrom was 11th overall, I think, 2 years ago by the Islanders, and he was one of those guys like they were thrilled to get him at 11th overall. And the prospect people I talked to were high on him for that spot as well. If you look at him in his early returns so far in the NHL, it's like 3 shots per game, or in the AHL, he averaged 3 shots per game, and as an 18-year-old, he put up 12 goals in 50 games. Like as an 18-year-old, that I don't care if it's the AHL, that's pretty impressive, especially on a team that didn't have a lot of offensive talent down in Bridgeport. So, like Pajot and Wahlstrom both playing the second PP unit. We know the Islanders, like they don't true split their PP, but their second PP does get a reasonable amount of time. We know Pajot is going to play his minutes too because he's kind of like a shutdown guy for them almost. So Wahlstrom, you know, I'm not saying Wahlstrom's going to play like 17 minutes, but he probably could get 13 or 14 with Pajot. And like they're unbelievably cheap to mix in as a 2-man so that you can get to your McDavids and your Matthews and your McKinnons and all that. So I'm going to have a little bit of that Islanders 3, like a little bit mini stack of Pajot and Wahlstrom just to mix in with my super expensive stacks. Other than that, I don't have a ton out of this game. I might have like one Islanders 1 stack, but that's probably going to be it. Honestly, my favorite play in this whole game is Carter Hart.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I am just going to record every time I say that I'm on Isles 1 and just replay it. This is that time of the show. So I like the Isles 1. Just it's more of an ownership thing and just that I believe in them as a line. Whenever they're going to be under 2%, like they're not thought of as like an elite line, I think, for DFS, but they're priced appropriately. They're fully correlated on the top power play, even though it is split. Like I do notice that I watch a surprising amount of Islanders games, I think because they're always on NBCSN. But yeah, like I always get frustrated because they really do split up that power play time, which is frustrating if you're playing Isles 1, but a little bit sneaky if you're looking for, you know, a $2,500 Wahlstrom, like you said. So, yeah, it's mostly going to be Isles 1 for me in this game. The Hayes, Voracek, and JVR line is fully correlated on PP1, but the Flyers, I don't know. They just kind of seem like a mess to me. I don't think that line's going to be very strong at 5-on-5 either. And I guess the power play correlation is a reason to play them. So I'm just kind of whatever I get on them is fine. I don't see myself having, you know, like 10%. Which is a lot for me of any line tonight. But I think I'm going to be closer to like 3 or 4% of that JVR Hayes Voracek line, and that's about it. We'll see what happens with Konechny. People are saying he's out. I'm assuming he probably is based on what happened this morning at Morningscape, but yeah.
Like Alain Vigneault's absolutely stupid enough to scratch him, so don't think he's not.
Old Rangers coach, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I remember.
That's the guy that used to play Michael Haley. I think he was the one that played Michael Haley on the 3rd line for the Rangers.
Nice. He's still bouncing around the league.
Yeah, he was playing. I forget where, but he was playing the other night.
I had to type his name in because we didn't have him in the database in the projection. So I just remember he spells it with a E-A-L. So that's what I remember about him most. But anyways, we got another super chat. Eric Hofbrow. He's had a nice little 24-hour stretch, more like 18-hour stretch. Big showdown last night in the CBJ Chicago game. And then looks like he binked again this morning. He says, I'm on a heater this week. Couldn't do it without all of the line info you all provide. Thanks, Cliffy and Jake. Very nice there.
Oh, thoughtful.
Yeah. All right, we're running a little bit slow, but that's all right because we've gotten a couple super chats and got to sell some people some stuff as well.
And there's a ton of games not really worth talking about either.
Yeah, true. 2.9 implied total for the Bruins, 2.6 for the Caps. Tugarask and Vitek Vanacek, again, for the Caps. I don't think Samsonov is available. I could be wrong there.
No, he's got COVID.
Oh, he does actually have it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, yeah, he's not available for at least a couple more games. Ovi, expected to be back. There was talk this morning that they were going to discuss whether or not they were going to allow him back into the lineup or something tonight, but he skated with Oshie and Panic on the second line. Oshie centering Ovi and Panic, and then Backstrom, Vrana, Wilson for the Caps. We've seen that a couple nights ago, and then Pasternak back for the Bruins. So each team getting a huge piece of their offenses back, presumably. I don't really love this game. I just kind of taken the obvious pieces on both sides in mass multi-entry, but I don't love anything. Where's your head at here?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this game either because, like, I was pretty set on fading Boston 1. Like, I did want to play Pasternak in his first game back on the road. Washington's not a great defensive team, but Backstrom, Braun, and Wilson could be a good defensive line, so it's not something I really want to chase. I wanted to get in on Boston too, but they broke – I guess they didn't break it up, but they put Carson Kuhlman there, and that really kind of changes things for me because, like, a second line of Oshie, Panik, and Ovechkin, like, I like Oshie as a winger. I don't like Oshie as a center. And Ovechkin's terrible defensively. Like, I could see that line kind of getting ran over here tonight, especially because Ovechkin hasn't practiced, right? He wasn't allowed to practice with the team. Him on the ice this morning with him was the first time he's skating with the team in 10 days. And he hasn't had any practice time either. So, like, I could definitely see that Washington's second line just getting completely run over. But, like, am I going to go out and stack, like, 15% Krejci Ritchie? Like, I don't really feel good about doing that. So I don't have any Boston 1 right now because they're pretty expensive, 2, because I'm not going to play Pasternak his first game back. I think people kind of might chase that. You know what I mean? It just kind of worries me that people are going to chase the new guy back. They want to get Pasternak back on the line and all that. People think they're different staying away from the Toronto-Edmonton game, so they're going to go to Boston. So I was going to stay away from that. I'm going back to Coyle and Smith. My little two-man on the third line. It worked out for us a couple games ago. Last game, Smith kind of fell on his face. But they're still putting up great numbers. They're going to go up against that middle of that Washington team that is just god-awful. Like I said, Oshie, Ovechkin should get run over. That third line with Dowd and Garnett Hathaway probably won't be very good either. So another two-man to fit in with the more expensive stacks we're going to talk with later, Coyle and Smith. I'm putting them in with Kevin Miller just because Miller's mid-price. Like, it's a super, super cheap stack so you can get in your Colorado power plays and all that. But I'm fine with just doing a two-man with Coyle and Smith. Like, with Washington, I'm assuming Braun is going to be kicked off the power play now that Ovechkin's back and they have Wilson back. So, like, I don't really want to play the top line because that's broken. I think the second line is going to get run over. I'm not in on Washington today. I'm not really in on Boston either. I think this is going to be kind of a lower, like, I'm hoping this is going to be a little bit of a low scoring game. I'm really only taking Coyle and Smith out of this.
Yeah. If you look at the top stack tool, which is free today, again, if you guys want to check that out, you're going to really like Boston. 19% chance of being a top 2 stack and only 6.2% ownership share right now. So that might come up a little bit, the ownership share. But they're the lowest owned line of the top 6 top 2 stack probabilities. So that's including Pitt 1, Edmonton 1, Winnipeg, Toronto, and Colorado 1. They're the lowest owned right now of those 6. Sorry. So I'm fine with whatever Boston 1 I get, but there are some lines that are a little bit cheaper. Who knows how Pasternak's going to respond first game back. Maybe people will chase him a little bit. And then Ovi first game back as well. I don't know what to expect with him playing with Oshie and Panik here. And who knows what they're going to do with the power play. I'm seeing Verana in the top power play at one site. It could be Wilson, though. So there's a lot of question marks, I think.
Yeah, it's
just the Caps.
Like, for the last 2 or 3 years, they've done everything they can to keep Verana off the power play unit, right? It's been Kuznets, like, Wilson's gone in or Eller's gone in. Like, they purposefully kept them off the top power play unit. I can't imagine why they would change now.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I hope this one kind of stays quiet. I will have exposure a little bit on both sides, but I don't really know what I'm rooting for once this one starts, which is a little bit uncomfortable, even with a bunch of lineups to play with. So Carlson at 6,500, he's fine, but there are better options tonight for me. I'd rather pay up a little bit more to Hedman. You've always got Yossi in there, and there's a couple other spend ups. So get into a little bit of Carlson, but not too much.
And, like, I don't even want to play Vanacek either. 7,800. Like, I'd play him at like 7,100 or something, but not at 78.
$7,800 underdog against Boston with one of the best lines. So no thanks.
I feel like that's a red flag.
Yeah. Yeah, not great. Dallas and Carolina, we've got a 2.6 implied total for the Stars, 2.8 for the Canes. Hudobin and Mrazek are your goalies. No Tavo for Carolina. There's another guy on the third line. I can't remember who it is. Martinuk, I think, was questionable. It looks like he's not going to return. And then Dallas, I haven't heard anything over the last couple of days about Hintz, but I'm assuming he's out again. He's been a game time decision 2 games in a row prior to this, but I don't know. He could pop up in the lineup. I'm not exactly sure where he stands. This one, another one that's kind of ugly, but I'm digging the Carolina side a little bit. Where are you at?
Yeah, I don't have a ton from this game. I have some one-off Trocheck and some one-off Brett Pesce, because Brett Pesce's been playing a ton of minutes, and he's super cheap. So I do have some one-off Brett Pesce. I do have some one-off Miro Heiskanen too. His price came down after his last game. He's down to an even 5,000, so I do like Heiskanen. As far as Hintz goes, they said Ben Hintz and Blake Como are all game time decisions. So
what the?
Yeah, so the top line could be Ben Hintz and Gurianov, or it could be Dickinson, Dowling, and Gurianov. So, okay. Yeah, and then you have the second line with Pavelski and Radulov both sitting up around 7K. So, I don't have anything from Dallas except for Heiskanen, because, like you said, we have 8 games starting at the same time. And if we have, 2 or 3 scrambles to go through, I don't want to have to deal with trying to take out Justin Dowling and Jason Dickinson so I can put in a bunch of Hintz and Ben lineups, or you know what I mean? Or put in Hintz and Ben lineups, and then they're not in, and then I have to go scramble around the rest of my lineups, especially where you're going into Carolina. It's a terrible matchup. Yeah. I feel like you shouldn't need to make reasons to not play Dallas here tonight, but the fact that 2/3 of their top line is a game time decision and their second line is just priced to the moon, I feel like the reasons are there to not play Dallas. So I'm out on the Stars tonight. I do have, like I said, I have some one-off Trocheck. He's going to top power play. He's been playing a ton of minutes. He's shooting a fair bit too, which is nice to see. So I do have some one-off Trocheck. I have some one-off Pesce, but that's about it from this game. I don't think I'll be stacking anything out, right? Not in 20 lineups.
Yeah, I'm going to stack some of that Carolina top line, Aho and Svechnikov. I'll leave some again on. I'll probably throw in your boy Trocheck and make it a little bit more expensive of 3-man, and probably add in Dougie for the onslaught type 4-man for Carolina, or broken PP, I guess people call it. So I like Carolina's top. Most of my exposure to Carolina is going to come through Aho and Svechnikov. We'll have some Dougie. He's one that I prefer over Carlson a little bit tonight. And then I had some interest in Dallas, but yeah, I didn't know that news that all those guys were game time decisions. That could really shake things up. And I honestly, I don't think I'm going to have time to get all those changes and upload the projections to the site and then redo all my lineups. If even one of those guys is in, that could shake things up. So,
and another thing, Teuvo Teravainen was taken off the COVID list, but they said he's not
fit to play.
They said he's not cleared to play, not that he's not fit to play.
Oh,
and we talked about Nick Ehlers before the show, because before the season he had a close contact COVID case. They cleared it. He was literally cleared 40 minutes before the game, and he was on ice for warm up. So, I'm assuming Teravainen's out tonight, but that's one of the wrenches that could be thrown in. Is he was taken off the COVID list? They just said he's not technically cleared to play, but if maybe they're just waiting for one final negative result to come in or something like that, and he suits up. So that's another thing to watch out for this game. Teravainen, Hintz, and Ben may all play in this one.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I thought I saw that he was unfit. So the language matters in 2021, I guess. All right. Yeah, that could really shake things up, because that would be one that I would if Tabo is in and then all of a sudden you have a line at a different price point that no one's going to be on. I would that's something I would redo, at least a portion of my lineups, to get in Tavo, Aho, and Svech. So, and they would be fully correlated if he could play. So just keep an eye out for this one. Get in Slack. If you got questions about what I'm doing, or if you care, you probably shouldn't care what I'm doing. But if you do, just ask me, and I'll let you guys know, because this one could be get weird really fast.
Yeah, Teravainen, Fogle, and Martinook were all taken off the COVID list.
All right. Okay, so maybe half these guys will play, maybe they won't.
Welcome to 2021 NHL, baby.
This is why there's an edge, though. If you can stay on top of even 95% of this stuff.
I mean, that's the thing. If we get news in a couple hours that Teravainen is playing, that is one situation where I will mess up a bunch of lines to get him in. Because if I can get a top line Carolina at 1% tonight, or a 0.5%, I'm doing it.
Yeah, love that. Totally agree. Nashville, Tampa Bay, 2.4 implied total for the Preds, 3.2 for the Lightning. Saros, expected not confirmed. He is 7,100. Vasilevsky, $8,300, expensive. And what are your thoughts on this game? I'll piggyback on whatever you say. I think we're going to be on the same page here.
Yeah, Tampa Bay won, very expensive, but I do like them. Our top tools, like, they're not super high on them. They're sitting around 10%, a little ways down the list, but we're not getting very much ownership on them, which is kind of what's driving me to them. Like, we have Stamkos at under 4%. We have Braden Point at 3%. Like, if they come in at around those ranges, I will definitely be in, especially where, like, with their line matching, they don't specifically send out top line against top line. They typically send out the Yanni Gord, Gaudreau, Coleman line against top line. So that Tampa third line is going to play against Johansson, Arvidsson, Forsberg. And then Point and Stamkos are going to get to play against the depth of the Predators. Like, Duchesne and Granlund look good, but they look good playing against Chicago. Like, let's see what they can do against a real team, right? So I do like the Tampa top line. I like them kind of like a pivot, because I imagine there's going to be a fair amount of ownership on Toronto and Edmonton. We're going to get to that game later. I think Tampa 1 is a nice pivot away from that game, because, like I said, like, we're not showing much ownership for any of them. And if you can get, Braden Point at 1/5 or 1/6 the ownership of Austin Matthews on an 11-game slate at home, I think that's very much a risk worth taking. So, like, and where they're so low owned, like, you don't need a lot of them, right? Like 10% Tampa 1, and you're going to be way, way, way over the field. So you don't need a lot here. So I am going to use some Tampa 1. I am getting to some Nashville 1 as well, and for two reasons. One, they're so cheap, right? 94. 14.8, I think, for the entire line. Like, we've seen this line, like, early last year near 20K, right? Like, this is a steep discount. Now, it's whether or not you still believe in the line. I do. And they are playing way more minutes than they were last year, which is a big thing. The big thing that concerned me with that trio was minutes, because they were playing like 15, 16 minutes towards the end of last year. Now that they're up to 17, 18, 19 minutes, I feel better about playing them. I don't feel good about playing them against Tampa. Don't get me wrong. It's not a good matchup, but it's not like Tampa's like a perfect team, right? I went back to look at last year just to prove my example. Like, they had 17 games last year, which is more than 1 of 4 games where they allowed at least 4 goals, right? Like, this is a team that won the Stanley Cup, and 25% of the games they allowed at least 4 goals. Like, they are not impervious to goal scoring. So if I can get, 2, 3, 4% Nashville 1 fully correlated at under 15K, I'm going to play them. If I can get Tampa 1, even as expensive as they are, at 2, 3, 4%, I'm going to play them. So I'm going to have probably about 10 to 15% of both top lines in this game. I understand wanting to stay away from Nashville 1. It's not a good matchup at all. I'm only doing this for price and for ownership. I'm not doing this because I think there's some edge that they're going to get in game.
Yeah. I think Nashville 1 is fine just for their price. Just taking a chance that maybe they're a really awesome line still, and last year was just a bad year. Someone was hurt, or multiple guys were hurt. So I think at that price, it's okay. If they outperform their expected goals here and they score 3, like, you could be in a spot where maybe they could be in a winning lineup if they get 2 of those, and they get 5 out of the 6 total points or whatever on those couple goals. So I can see a path for Nashville 1. I wasn't really getting there too much before the show. I'm at least going to keep them in. I was considering just like Xing out Nashville entirely. I really love Tampa here. Top line, trying to fit in as much as I possibly can while still getting in decent defensemen, trying to go Tampa 1 with Hedman. It's really tough, especially with so many other like good lines that are in their same price range. They don't project quite as high, but they're up there as a priority play for me. So I'm going to try to get like over 10% of Tampa 1. I think I'm going to be over on Tampa 2, even though I don't really love them as a line. It's just a fine price. Maybe they get squeezed out a little bit. And then Tampa 3 as well. I think you can include them in your MME stuff, and I certainly am going to do that. So, yeah, I really like the spot for Tampa. I think Hedman's as good of a play as pretty much any defenseman tonight in tournaments. I think he's got real like tournament winning upside tonight. So like him a lot. Yossi, okay, so I didn't think I was going to get to a bunch of him, but I like don't pay attention to like individual guys' price tags. 5,800. It's not like a slam dunk play or anything, but he's probably a guy that I have 25-30% of here. So that's just the way it is, man. This guy's just too good. Takes too many shots, blocks too many shots. Yeah, I don't know if he's like a cash game staple tonight. Probably not, but we've got him projected for almost 13 points at under 6K. So check some boxes for me there. Anything else here?
No, that's about it for me. I mean, I kind of want to play Saros because he's off to a really good start this year. He's a big reason why they're winning any games. But Tampa's not like – they're not a shot volume team. So, I don't know. I think you're fine using Saros if you want to get like a little bit different. 7,100, he's cheap enough, but I don't think you have to force him in.
All right, premier game of the slate right now. Florida Panthers and Detroit Red Wings. We've got a 3.2 implied total for the Panthers, 2.7 for the Wings. Bobrovsky and possibly Bernier, could be Grice. They're the same price, so thanks to DK for that. I think they're the exact same price on FanDuel. Smart move by them to just price the goalies the exact same. So a couple sites, maybe not paying total attention to NHL, but they're doing a better job this year than last year. So that's all we can ask for is some improvement. I was kind of kidding about this being a premier game, but there's ownership on both sides, and I can't even really say I hate it. So where's your heart take you on this game, if anywhere at all?
I mean, I'm just out on Detroit. I might not roster them the rest of the year. Like, I'm just so fed up with that team. Like, I'm just so tired of watching Anthony Mantha skate around with Valtteri Filppula and like Adam Ernie or Luke Glendening. Like, I'm just done. I'm done on Detroit. I'm just done. So I'm going to talk about Florida. The Florida top line, I have tremendous amount of interest in here tonight. They have been like lights out great to start the year. We're only talking about a 50-minute sample, so grain of salt and all that. But an expected goals for over 4 per 60 minutes is just a monster total. Like, I don't care if they've been playing bad competition. Look who they're playing tonight, right? Like, this, it's just the reality of the situation. And Verhaeghe and Duclair, for whatever reason, their prices aren't coming up. So, like, I don't even though there's no correlation, like Barkov is PP1 and his wingers are PP2, even though there's no correlation, I have a ton of like Barkov, Duclair, Ekblad, Barkov, Verhaeghe, Ekblad, Barkov, Verhaeghe, Duclair, Ekblad. Even though I'm only getting like half the guys on the top PP unit, I don't care. This is such a good matchup for the Florida top line. And the fact that it shouldn't be a real big surprise they're playing this well. Like, I know people look at Carter Verhaeghe and they think he's just like some castaway. Like, the guy put up, I think it was 130 points in 134 games over 2 years in the AHL. And he's one of those guys, like, he was in the Tampa Bay system, and Tampa Bay was notorious for finding these hidden gems like Tyler Johnson, like Yanni Gord, like those types of guys, like Jonathan Marchessault. Those guys all came from Tampa Bay. And Carter Verhaeghe, like I said, put up 130 points on 134 AHL games, and then they just trade him. There's a pretty good chance, there's a decent chance like he's a good offensive player, that he's not just some plug playing alongside Barkov. And he's playing, like, I think he was up to 20 minutes in the last game. Like, Verhaeghe's been playing a ton alongside Barkov. And even Duclair was up at like 17 or 18 minutes or something like that. So I have a lot of interest in this Florida top line, especially where they're so cheap. Like you can stack the entire top line for under 15K, which allows you to get to a lot of different spots. Like you can't get to Tampa or you can't get to Colorado, but you can get to your Montreals, you can get to your Pittsburghs, you can get to, Vancouver's or whatever. So I do like that Florida top line here tonight. I think I'm going to stay away from the goalies in this one. I do have a little bit of interest in Grice, but 7,700, like that's expensive for a Detroit goalie. Like again, I'd probably play him at 7,100, 7,200, but it's like Vanacek. I think he's like $600 or $700 overpriced. So I'm staying off both goalies probably in this one.
Yeah, I am right there with you on Florida, specifically that top line. Correlation isn't really there, but when you're that good so far at 5-on-5, I don't really care, especially if you're this cheap. Looks like they're getting some ownership, so maybe more doopy lineups with them if you're going with cookie cutter line of construction like 4-3-1 with correlated goalie. So that'd be the only thing I would say about them, like the only negative really. The two would be just that they might come up in some heavily duped lineups. So use ownership projections if you haven't thought of doing that. The second line for Florida, whatever, it's Wenberg. If you want to play Huberdeau and Hornquist and you want to play a $3,400 center with them and hope he gets a couple assists, that's fine. I'll have some of that as well. And then Detroit side, since you didn't talk about them, I think they're fine, but their ownership is sneaky high here.
Yeah.
So I think how I like to attack them here is like Mantha is the play at 4K, I think. And I think Ryan's fine as well. Nemestikov doesn't really do a ton for you, but he is centering that really cheap line. So I think that line's okay as a full stack, but again, just like 4-1, but even more, they're probably going to end up in some really heavily duped lineups on an 11-game slate. So I think you can go with old Detroit 1, even though they're probably not going to be back together at the start of the game. Maybe at some point during the game, they could get back together, or they're fully correlated on the power play. So Larkin, Bertuzzi, Mantha, or something like that, I think is fine with Detroit.
You know what I'm done? I'm done putting my faith in Jeff Blashill. That's what I'm done.
Oh, man. There was a run where I think it was 2 seasons ago, they put Detroit 1 together for I want to say 5 or 6 games in a row, and it was awesome for DFS. But he just refuses to keep that line together for whatever reason. So I don't know. Whatever. I mean, I'm playing 150, so I can waste a few lineups in Detroit.
I kind of went off on Detroit a little bit, but I do have some one-off Mantha. I'm not an idiot. Like 4K Anthony Mantha, I am going to play him, but I'm not stacking anything off Detroit.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, there's a bunch of other places to go. So a lot of uncertainties with Detroit always. So I get it. If people want to get off of them. Can't really be too mad about that. All right, we've got we're over halfway done here. Again, free NHL Top Stacks tool, free NBA ownership projections today. If you are looking for just a peek about what you get for behind the paywall, you can get access to all of the Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with the Awesemo Plus weekly pass, which is $29.95, $30 a week. It includes projections, premium content, ownership, Slack channel that we talk about so much for NHL, especially super important for NBA. We have an NBA breaking news channel, so the NBA channel doesn't get so crowded because there's a lot of people talking NBA and a lot of other stuff. And if you're only looking to play NHL, you can sign up for our NHL weekly package, $11.95. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. There you go. I think that's all I've got for housekeeping stuff. Yeah, you guys know the deal on Premium Slack. It's the best place to be, right around lock, especially and through lock. So we'll update anything as the night goes through lock because I don't have anywhere to go. I'm just uploading projections the whole night and changing out my goalies and stuff. Calgary, Montreal, 2.9 implied total for the Flames, 3.1 for Montreal. Markstrom, Allen, those are your goalies. Where's this game taking you? Calgary side, Montreal side, neither?
Yeah, I'm probably going to be off the Calgary side. I kind of want to use them because Montreal is running hot right now. Obviously, they don't have a regulation loss yet. That's not going to persist. The bottom kind of has Like, I think Montreal's a really good team. I just don't think they're like, unbeaten good. But I just don't see a lot from Calgary that I really like. Like, the matchup is kind of a tough one because Montreal won. Like, we talked about it on Thursday night. I thought that Montreal 1 would go up against the Gaudreau Monahan line, but they didn't. Montreal 1 went up against the Tkachuk Lindholm line. That's a terrible matchup for both lines. Like, that's a situation where I would just ignore both lines. I know you play 150, so you're going to have some exposure, but where I'm playing 20, like, I need to look for reasons to cross lines and teams off. Those are two really good defensive lines. They can generate offense, but where I need to find a reason, like, to get rid of lines, like, this is a situation where I'm just going to cross off Montreal 1. I'm going to cross off Gaudreau and Lindholm, and I'm going to keep moving down. Now, I get to Montreal 2, which is Suzuki, Drouin, and Anderson. They should be going up against the second line for Montreal, which is Monahan, Gaudreau, and Simone. That's the line that I want to attack in a line matching situation. So I have quite a bit of Suzuki and Drouin for a little bit of power play time. I am mixing in some Josh Anderson with them. I'm not really playing Jeff Petrie. He's up at 6,800, but if you look at his minutes, he's been down to like 19, 20 minutes his last couple of games. That's a pretty big concern. I'm not paying $6,800 for 20 minutes of Jeff Petrie. I'm sorry. I wouldn't pay $6,800 for any defenseman at 20 minutes. So I'm getting to 0 Petrie, but some Weber. I'm getting to some one-offs on the third line, like one-off Kotkaniemi, one-off Corey Perry, but that's about it. The only stack that I'm really taking out of this game is like Suzuki Drouin or Suzuki Anderson or Suzuki Toffoli or like some sort of Montreal 1 power play stack. That's kind of where I'm going this one. I'm probably going to leave the Calgary side alone for now. Jacob Markstrom, I think, is fine in net if you want to use him. I think the big, if you want to say it, I think the edge that you might get in this game is Montreal starting Jake Allen instead of Carey Price. So I think, that might drive some more ownership over to the Calgary side, even though it's still a bad matchup. So I think that's kind of another reason why I'm going to stay off the Flames is that I think, like I said, Carey Price not playing tonight, I think that's going to drive more ownership to Calgary, and that's going to drive me off the Flames.
I thought this game was going to be one that I liked a lot. But yeah, you mentioned the line matching here. It's good for Montreal. I think it's smart for Montreal to go up against Lindholm and Tkachuk, but like usually don't see teams treat that as a top line. So that was a little disappointing to see. So I agree with you. Like, it's just, I thought I was going to have a bunch of both Montreal 1 and Calgary 1, and it's just going to be a few lineups here and there for both sides just to get another lineup in for whoever I'm pairing them with, Pittsburgh or whatever. So not really priorities on either side. Suzuki up to 5,900 already. He doesn't grade, like the second line doesn't grade out as a strong value for us in projections. So might need to boost them manually to get to them, but I like the call there. And then defensemen are just a little bit too expensive for my taste for like one-offs in this game. Anderson, 5,100 on the Calgary side. Gio not getting top power play, and he's almost 6K. And then Weber and Petrie, 61 and 6,800. So, yeah, just kind of a meh game for me here. Anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, I like Markstrom at 7,200, but that's about it.
All right, let's go to Toronto and Edmonton. 3.3 implied total for the Leafs, 3.2 for the Oilers. Anderson and Koskinen are your goalies. Exciting game a couple nights ago. Trading goals back and forth. I think it ended 4-3. Edmonton had a power play at the end to try to tie it up. And, Konechny officially a healthy scratch. So there you go. Get Konechny out. We'll get him. We'll get the projections updated after the show. This is another game. I thought I was going to have a ton of exposure to this one. I will have some, but not looking like where the field's at. I'm not quite on the same page. I don't think like either side is as good of a play, like 3 times as good of a play as like Pittsburgh or some other teams like that, Tampa. And you can make it work with these other teams. So this is kind of the obvious spot. Is there anything you don't like here that seems obvious?
Well, one thing that's kind of bothering me is what Edmonton's doing with their top power play. They've really been mixing, like Draisaitl, RNH, and McDavid have been staples, and they've been switching out Nurse in Barry on the blue line, but it's the fourth forward that's been a problem. It was Alex Chiasson early in the season, and then when James Neal was healthy, it was James Neal. In their last game, Puljujarvi, Yamamoto, and Neal all played on the top power play unit at different times. So it's just like I don't think you can just get away with just stacking like Draisaitl, McDavid, RNH, because I think a lot of people will be doing that, or like McDavid, RNH. Like I think you have to add in that extra forward to try to be a little bit different. It's just which extra forward is it going to be, right? Like that's kind of the concern here. Is if three different guys are getting power play one time, that means nobody's getting power play one time. So it's one thing that's kind of keeping me away from outright stacking Edmonton, is that I think you just kind of have to get too chalky unless you're just guessing, unless you want to just take a stab at who and guess who's going to be on the top power play unit. So that's what's kind of keeping me away from Edmonton. And Toronto's been a better defensive team this year. That's one thing that's really stood out to me in the Canadian division early in the season, is that Toronto's not scoring as much, but they're also better defensively than they were last year, the year before. Now the top line, their defensive numbers have taken a hit without Joe Thornton, but now that Zach Hyman's back there, like I think they're going to come back around. And Edmonton has been matching top line against top line, second line against second line. So McDavid going up against what is a good defensive line with Matthews, Marner, and Hyman. Like I don't really like that. I know McDavid is pretty much matchup proof, but again, on an 11-game slate, you have to look for reasons to not play or to play less of some players. So that's kind of where I'm looking at on that side. I am getting to a lot of Toronto. I have a lot of Matthews and Marner here tonight. Edmonton kind of looks like a mess defensively. None of their even strength lines are good defensively. They're really spreading out the minutes amongst their defensemen. Like Darnell Nurse topped out at 22 minutes last game, the most on the blue line. And if you're spreading out minutes so you can get extra minutes to guys like Chris Russell or Adam Larson or whatever, like you're in a world of hurt. So extra minutes to bad defensemen is a very good thing for DFS if you're on the other side of it. So I love Toronto 1 here tonight. I have quite a bit of Matthews. I'm mixing in Marner, Kerfoot, all the guys that are on the top PP unit. So give me Toronto 1 out of this game. I might have like some one-off McDavid, but that's about it. Edmonton's just not strong defensively, and their goaltending's been a mess.
Yeah. I think the line that I'm most likely to be overweight on is the second line for Toronto, Tavares, Nylander, and Mikheyev. But they're getting owned as well. So, yeah, I think it's a really good spot for Toronto. I think it's a good enough spot for McDavid where you can justify playing him as a popular play, but I'm just going elsewhere. It's not really anything to do with any of the players. I love a bunch of players in this game. It's just one of those things where you hope the scoring is spread out enough, or the few lineups that I do get of Toronto 1 and Edmonton 1 that I find the good low-owned pairing with them that goes off. So don't think I'll have 15% of Edmonton 1. Don't think I'll have, let's see where Toronto 1's at. They were like in the teens, I think. Yes, Toronto 1, highest owned line of the night, almost 17%. Don't think I'll be getting to there, maybe half of that. And I might end up swapping off some of it. Actually, never mind. I thought this game was late for some reason. This game starts at 7 Eastern. So we're still in the 7 Eastern games. That's kind of nuts. We've only got 3 left. So let's move it on to barn burner here between the Avalanche and the Minnesota Wild. 2.9 implied total for the Avs, 2.6 for the Wild. Grubauer, Kakinen. Not Kapanen from the Penguins. Anyways, Brad Hunt slotting in the lineup because Fiala is suspended. Dangerous hit on, I think it was Matt Roy for the Kings the other night. So they're not going to be with him. They're going to be without him for a while. And I don't really love the spot for Colorado, all things considered, especially the price on Colorado 1. So the second line went off last game. Are you going back to them? Is this just a cross-off game for you? Where's your head out here?
Yeah, I don't have much Colorado in here. I mean, on Thursday I talked about how basically once lines get to about $23,000, they just don't find their ways into my optimizer. Like that's just it's not like an exact cutoff point. It's just where I find lines just it doesn't matter what they're projected for. It's just too expensive. So I don't have any Colorado one, and that makes me kind of nervous because like we had them as the number one top two stack on the night. We have them as the number one leverage play on the night by our top stacks tool. It's just like going into Minnesota is a real bad matchup, especially where they reunited that great checking line with Eriksson Ek and Marcus Foligno. They reunited them for the third period last game. So I'm kind of assuming they're going to stay together for this one to shut down the McKinnon line. So it is one of the best shutdown lines in hockey. So I kind of want to avoid that. So that's my reason to avoid Colorado 1 here tonight. You can play Colorado 2. Like, I think people that were on them, like, I don't want to kind of like badmouth them, but they got kind of lucky in that game. Like, that was a 0-0 game with 10 minutes left or whatever. And then they got 3 goals in the final 10 minutes, including a power play with 90 seconds left. Like, I get
sounds like you're coming at me here. No, I agree. It was super lucky. I mean, they had like 65 DK points in the last 10 minutes.
Like, to an extent, you have to get lucky to win on DraftKings. Like, you do have to get lucky to win in DFS, but you got 3 goals in the final, 9 minutes, including one on the power play with 90 seconds left. Like, I think if you're using Colorado 2, you got your one time there last game. So, like I said, it's a tough matchup. I'm going to be out on Colorado pretty much entirely in this game. I'm going more to Minnesota. Parise Kaprizov, 2-mans. They finished the game together last game with Fiala out. I'm assuming they're going to play together again with Bukestad on the top line this game. So I am using quite a bit of those 2-mans because they're reasonably cheap. I think people are going to stay off of them. I'm looking at our ownership right now. Parise is under 1%. If you're looking for Parise and Kaprizov are probably going to have to play 19 or 20 minutes with no Fiala. So if I can get a 1% Parise playing 19 minutes at home, stacked in a line with his power play line mates, I'm going to do that. So Parise, Kaprizov, throw him in with Spurgeon or whomever on the blue line. That's kind of where I'm focusing here for this game.
Yep. Not crazy about Colorado 1. If you can fit them, by all means. I think if there's ever a line that's going to go off against this really good shutdown line for Minnesota, who I agree, I think they're probably going to be back together. If there's a time to be back together, it's against maybe the best line in hockey, Colorado 1. So it would be the perfect chance for Minnesota to deploy them, try to slow them down. And then I agree, Parise, Bukestad / Kaprizov. So 2-mans of those guys I think are definitely usable here. Bukestad, he kind of just looks like not a great player. I'm certainly not the best eye for talent, but if you want to include him in a stack, sure. He's not a guy I would want off. I would want off Kaprizov. He looks really impressive to me. He seems like he's constantly getting breakaways and creating really good scoring chances. And so anyways, no one cares about my actual hockey opinions, but that's the line I'm going to for the Wild. Fiala being out definitely hurts them. So not a whole lot else that I would be looking to stack for Minnesota. And then, the Colorado 2 donks going back there. I don't think I'm going to get to a lot of Colorado 2 either. If I get to a few 4 or 5% or something, that's probably going to be over the field, but it's just because they're cheap. Saad at 2,600, Burakovsky at 4K. Don't expect them to score 1 million points in 10 minutes of real time. Again, that's probably never going to happen. So that's about it for this game. Low total. It is Colorado 1. So you're going to feel dumb if Colorado 1 goes off and you don't have them, but I'm kind of prepared for that. So
couple cheap spots I want to mention. Bowen Byram is 2,800. He's been playing about near 20 minutes for Colorado. And with Devin Taves out for Colorado, I imagine he's going to stay near 20 minutes moving forward. So Bowen Byram's a pretty good punt down at 2,800. I also like Capo Kakinen in net. $6,800 goalie at home. I'll take it. I know it's a risk. It's Colorado. I mean, come on. I know there's a very good chance they put up 6 tonight, but 6,800, I'm in.
Yeah. Don't watch the game if you're playing Kapanen here. Kakinen. Don't watch the game. It's never fun to watch your goalie go up against Colorado 1. Like, it's a sweat.
You never watch your goalie and you never watch your closer.
Yeah, true. I mean, that you could save years of your life just doing that if you played DFS night in and night out. Blues Ducks. A couple more games to go. 2.9 implied total for the Blues. 2.4 for the Ducks. Tyler, are we good on time? We don't have anything after this. We're good. All right. 2.9 implied total for the Blues. 2.4 for the Ducks. Binnington, Gibson. Is it STL2 night?
Is it?
You tell me.
Okay. The joke here is last night in Slack we were talking about, or I was just posting different stats, and one of them was the St. Louis second line, Kyrou, Schwartz, and Braden Shen. So far this season, they're sitting at 69% expected goal share and 4.1 expected goals for per 60 minutes. And I think their actual goals for is like over 6 or something absurd. Like, they're playing absolute lights out hockey right now. But here's the but. The but is Jordan Schwartz and Shen are playing like 17, 18, sometimes 19 minutes a game. Kyrou played 11 minutes in their last game. Like, they have been leaving him off. Like, as the game progresses, they've been leaving him off that line at times and moving, I guess, more defensively responsible guys up or something like that. So that's one. Two is that it's not a correlated line. But here's the real kicker on the whole thing here for tonight. Anaheim has been sending out not the Henrique line.
Oh, yeah.
Not the Getzlaf line. Not the Sam Steele line. But the Carter Rowney line against other top lines at home. The Carter Rowney line is their fourth line. The Carter Rowney line currently has a 34% expected goal share on the season.
Oh, man.
If they put out that fourth line against Ryan O'Reilly's line with him and David Perron here tonight, they're going to get slaughtered. Now, whether they actually, because this is what they've been doing, like, they've been playing that Rowney line against other top lines at home. That's what they've been doing. If they do that again here tonight, St. Louis 1 is going to run them over. So I think St. Louis 1 is my highest exposed line so far here tonight.
Ooh.
I have a ton of O'Reilly and Perron. Going up against John Gibson is scary. And that's the thing here with this game is that St. Louis 1 is my highest exposed line here tonight, but John Gibson is also my highest exposed goalie. Because I think the only way Anaheim wins this game is if Gibson goes like thermal nuclear, right? Like, he has to. There's just nothing on this roster to support him. So I see this game going one of two ways. Like, St. Louis either shells them or Anaheim wins like a 2-1, 3-1 game where Gibson saves them. So that's where I'm at on this game. I have a ton of St. Louis 1 with O'Reilly and Perron. I'm using Sanford with him because Sanford actually played like nearly 18 minutes last game. He's not a Kyrou. They've actually been leaving them on that line at 5-on-5. So I do have some Sanford in with them. But I'm mixing in like Schwartz and Shen just to get some additional power play exposure. But I love O'Reilly and Perron here tonight.
All right. Not the direction I thought you were going to take it, but it does make a lot of sense because I noticed they were doing that. The Ducks last time they played at home, I think it was against Colorado 1, and I guess it worked out in that like Colorado 1 didn't go nuts on them, but like they had like 20-some shot attempts.
I mean, you can only poke the Bears so many times, right? You can only run that fourth line out against other top lines before they just cave in.
Yeah, so Gibson's bailed them out a couple times. Probably, I mean, he's a really good one-off goalie, so I love to correlate. I mean, I like to correlate. I do it a lot, but this would be a guy that you should definitely consider as a one-off goalie, regardless of how many lineups you're playing tonight. So I like both of the St. Louis top two lines. I'm just in on a line with these ridiculous numbers for STL2. Don't really mind the matchup. The Ducks have been actually the second worst team so far at all strengths in terms of expected goals against. The last team is the team we're going to talk about in the last game tonight. So we'll get to them in a minute, but yeah, I love STL1. I will be on, or I'm sorry, STL2 I will be on the top line, though, now that you talked me into it. I don't know, why my mind is blanking that I shouldn't want St. Louis 1, but I was just blinded, I guess, by the St. Louis 2 amazing numbers so far.
Yeah. And another reason, like we talked before the show about rest and travel and all that, another reason that you might want to play St. Louis tonight is this is 4 games in 7 days for Anaheim and 5 in 9, while the Blues have been off since Tuesday. So the Blues are going to be completely rested and raring to go, while, like I said, Anaheim's playing their 5th game in 9 days. So I think there are I'm not saying don't play St. Louis 2. Like, I think you can even make a case for St. Louis 3. If you really want to dig deep, I think you can make a good case for all the top 3 St. Louis lines. When I see Ryan O'Reilly going up against the 4th line, I just say, give me as much Ryan O'Reilly as I can muster.
All right. Canucks, Jets, last game of the night. If you guys could, before you head on out of here, hit us with a like. 300 of you watching on a Saturday. That's pretty good. If we could get over 100 likes, that would be a good benchmark to judge the success of the show on. And then help us get to 50,000 subs. We're almost there. We're a few hundred away. I think we're going to get there probably either tonight or maybe tomorrow night on the NBA show. NBA is coming up a little bit later tonight. Just go to the Awesemo YouTube channel, and you can find out the schedule there. Or just hit the notification bell, and they'll tell you when you're live. Notifications right to your phone or your browser or whatever. Vancouver and the Jets, 3.1 implied total. For the Canucks, 3.3 for the Jets, Demko, and probably Hellebuck for the Jets. It's almost always him unless it's a back-to-back situation. I don't know if they have a back-to-back tomorrow, but it's possible they do. Anyways, what do we like here? Vancouver, terrible defensively so far. They've had a bunch of injuries, so maybe they're not going to be that bad. It'd be hard to keep up the pace as far as being this bad for an entire 56-game season, but they've been awful. I'm a noted Winnipeg hater, at least on that top line, but I am making an exception tonight. Where are you at on Winnipeg 1? And not only Winnipeg 1, the chat requested earlier that we talk about Winnipeg 2 as well. So what do you like here?
So this is the interesting thing about this game is Winnipeg 1 has been getting caved in defensively all year, and they got caved in defensively last year. Like, this is not a surprise. So Paul Maurice actually made a little change last game. He had been sending out Winnipeg's top line against the opposing top line like all season. That's just what they do. But in the second and third periods in their last game, he started sending out their third line, Appleton, Perreault, and Lowry. And their third line matched, and Edmonton was in town, and their third line matched up against McDavid for the rest of the game. So if they do this, like, I'm wondering if they do the same thing here tonight, or if it was just a one-off thing just because McDavid was in town, right? But, like, if Winnipeg 3 goes up against Elias Pettersson's line and lets, Scheifele go up against Zach McEwen or even Horvat's line, like, that could be big things coming for Winnipeg. So I do like the Jets a lot here tonight. They're my second favorite stack after St. Louis. We have them as fairly low owned at 6% as a stack. The one thing I will caution is that there haven't been a lot of implied goal totals to climb through the day, but Winnipeg's is one of them that has gone from 3.1 to 3.4 through the day. So I think we might see Winnipeg closer to like 10% owned, but that's fine. It doesn't really matter, especially if they start getting those depth matchups. I like them a lot. Like, the difference between 6% and like 9% or something is not enough for me to say, no, I'm not playing Winnipeg. You know what I mean? So I'm still in on them. Winnipeg 2, like you mentioned, has been absolutely unbelievable to start the year. They went nuclear in their last game. The second line of Stasny, Ehlers, and Kopp. Their expected goals for is another one of those lines that's over 4 for the year. As long as Winnipeg 3 takes that Pettersson line, they're also going to see that the middle 6 of that Vancouver lineup, which is just atrocious. So I do like both Winnipeg's top lines here. I'm not playing the second line like outright because there are other lines kind of in that price range that I'm using that I don't mind using, but it's not to say that Winnipeg 2 is in a bad spot. They're in a good spot. It's just they're uncorrelated, and I think it's kind of like that Colorado game the other night. I think if you've gotten in on Winnipeg for the last couple of games, I think you got as good as it's going to get. So I don't want to chase Winnipeg too in case other people are chasing it as well. But it is a good spot. I'm not going to say it's not. For me, it's going to be more about Winnipeg 1. Them going up against like Brandon Sutter and Adam Gaudette or whatever, like give me as much as that as I can. So yeah, I'm in on Winnipeg 1 here tonight.
Yeah, Winnipeg 1's my highest exposed right now. So I feel pretty good about Winnipeg 1. And again, Winnipeg 1 hater. So I don't know, maybe I just gave him the cooler right there. But yeah, if Winnipeg 1 doesn't interest you, I don't know why it wouldn't. We'll overlook the 5-on-5 numbers for just this one night because of how awful Vancouver's lines are defensively so far. And it's probably more to do with just their defensive core just being in shambles for a few games there. It's possible guys are playing hurt. Big total, medium ownership. I mean, nothing ridiculous here. Last game of the night, maybe people don't want to wait that long to accrue points. I'm fine with waiting. I'm going to have a ton of Winnipeg 1. I'm going to have a lot of Winnipeg 2, at least to start with. And then this is the last game. Like this is probably a pretty decent swap opportunity. Like if you've got, one of your lines that you're heavy on, looks like the nuts in the early game. That's cheap. Maybe you move a couple of your Winnipeg 1 shares with that line to Vancouver 1 just to diversify a little bit. That's something I like to do in MME when you're trying to bank first place. But yeah, I don't really like the Vancouver side. I'm surprised the total is this high. I mean, I know Winnipeg's not stout defensively or anything like that, but I'm having a tough time outside of maybe some power play stacks for Vancouver. Is there anything you're attacking there?
No, I'm out on the Canucks tonight, and I'll tell you why I'm out on the Canucks tonight. Believe it or not, Winnipeg was one of the least penalized teams in the NHL last year. I think they took the second fewest penalties of any team, which is a ridiculous turnaround because, like, for years they were one of the most penalized teams. Dustin
Byfuglien years.
Yeah, Dustin Byfuglien's gone 1 year, and they're the second least penalized team in the NHL. But if you look again this year, they've either given up the fewest or second fewest shorthanded chances. Like they just don't give up power plays, and Vancouver relies on their power play for scoring. So if Vancouver can get 4 or 5 power plays, I think they can do damage because I don't think Winnipeg's penalty kill will necessarily be very good, but it's a matter of actually getting those power plays. And if Winnipeg doesn't take the penalties, then it doesn't matter. So again, it's one of those situations where I need to look for reasons to not play lines, and the fact that Winnipeg doesn't take penalties is enough to get me off of Vancouver. So I have nothing from the Canucks here tonight. I do like Hellebuck. He's expensive, but I think he's fine. Like Winnipeg's bad enough defensively where I think Vancouver can get some shots in on this one. So let's say Hellebuck's my favorite expensive goalie here tonight.
He is my favorite expensive goalie, I think, as well. So right there with you. This is a really good slate. Look, we broke down the 11 games. We recapped the showdown last night, had a showdown winner in Slack earlier today. So it's been a good day. Hopefully we can make some money. There won't be a show tomorrow, but if you guys have any more questions about tonight, about tomorrow's slate, we'll still have everything. Top Stacks tool, take advantage today if you're thinking about joining, or even if you're not and you just want to use a cool tool for today. It is free. If you guys want to check that out, you can see which lines Awesemo deems under-owned, over-owned based on their chances of being a top 2 stack. You can see the leverage you're getting, some of these high-owned lines. Anything else from your end, Cliffy, before we head out of here?
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention actually was in the St. Louis game. Justin Falk and Colton Parayko have both been playing about 26 minutes a night lately, which is absolutely insane. So if you're playing St. Louis and you're worried about they might be popular or whatever, Parayko 4,800, Justin Falk 4,000, playing a ton of minutes. So that's just the last thing I forgot to mention. I got nothing else.
All right. There you go. Comprehensive breakdown. Thanks for joining, everybody. Hit the like button on the way out. We're almost to 100. We're almost to 50,000 subs. Help us get there by Super Bowl in 8 days from now. Good luck. And thanks for producing, Tyler, letting us go a little bit late. NBA tonight. So make sure to head on over there as well. Free ownership projections for NBA. Good luck, everybody. See you Monday.